If you think about the process of an audience member experiencing a work at an arts festival, everything's based around exchange of dollars. If you come to the festival, there is that happening. I mean, there's commercial aspects to our festival, but at its very core, which is the docks, where the wooden boats or the small craft are just full of life and energy and people having fun. That doesn't even come up, this exchange of money. It's exchange of stories. People walk around the docks and talk to each other, and I say the currency of our festival is stories and people connecting in that way. People love to go look at boats, and then people love to talk to people who are interesting, and boat owners are generally quite interesting, and wooden boat owners are extremely colorful and interesting in general, and they've usually have bucket loads of stories to tell. So I think that the success of our festival is basically predicated on this passion and joy of wooden boat ownership, which is authentic and real. So in many ways, the festival it's been going for 30 years, so it runs like a well-oiled machine. So in many times, my job is trying to find new and interesting things that sort of enhance the festival around the core. One of the most interesting projects from 2023 was we worked with a indigenous boat builder named Sheldon. Sheldon Thomas worked in TMAG ages ago, I think 15 years ago, with a group that used French documentation of their exploration of the d'Entrecasteaux Channel. And they did extensive research and drawings on indigenous watercraft, so they used those to recreate this. And Sheldon was one of the few from that group that then went on and continued to innovate and build these craft. And so he's been working with the festival for quite some time, since 2015, so almost 10 years. And we got a grant from Festivals Australia, federal government program, that commissioned a new watercraft, the largest one that Sheldon had ever built. And we also had this beautiful cradle built with it with a local shipwright. So he spent a year with a friend of his and three indigenous young people who didn't know much about the trade or boat building at all. So he sort of taught them at the same time, which was really great. And seeing this thing come to life was great, because the intricacies of it, the secret is this thing called corkweed, which apparently is not very easy to find. It only grows 3 weeks a year. So he had to start 1 year in advance to harvest the corkweed, dry it out, and that then becomes the core. It's a buoyant core. And it's then wrapped with a bark. So this structure comes in 3 bits, pulls together, and you have a canoe kind of with a keel on it, actually. And I just didn't know if the thing would float. I was very, very nervous, but Sheldon was like, "Oh, it'll be all right, don't worry about it." You have 5,000 people gathered around Constitution Dock. There's a musician singing over the top of Sheldon getting in this canoe and launching it off to open our festival. And this thing was a great boat. I mean, it was stable. It paddled well. It was just a well-designed craft. And I think that connection of cultures based around a simple idea of building a boat and getting on the water and trading or fishing or whatever you're doing out there on the water. It's such a unique way of connecting cultures. So Sheldon was paddling out, and there was a scheduled bridge opening at Constitution Dock. If anyone who knows the area knows the Constitution Dock, and as Sheldon paddled out, the bridge opened as if sort of the gates were opening up for him, and there's beautiful music in the background, and he sort of paddled off into the distance. And I just thought that was beautiful and just a great way of opening the festival and acknowledging Indigenous culture in a way that is relevant and real. And in 2025, because we're expanding to New Zealand and the Pacific, we're going to be working with First Nations people from New Zealand and hopefully elsewhere in the Pacific, and we're going to really enhance that welcome to country to be just a great spectacle that has meaning. The process goes like this. You get onto our website, there's an expression of interest form, you fill it out, got lots of technical details about your boat. And then it has the area where you can talk your boat up. And there's images and also the text. So we have a scoring panel, which I'm not on. Just try to keep sort of arm's length to make sure it's all objective. We don't score based on the people. It's all about the boat. So it's nothing to do with the owners. And we score on a variety of metrics: design, history, significance, the looks of it as it stands today, you know, whether it's been well maintained and this sort of thing. And that doesn't mean the only boats that get in are sort of 20 coats of varnish and never been out. We'd like to have a variety of different types of boats to show how people use their wooden boats as well. So once you make your expression of interest, basically it's scored. It goes into a database, and we'll slowly, progressively start to invite boats into the festival. Once you make your application and the boat is scored, if you don't make it into the first cut, the boat goes onto a waiting list. And oftentimes boats from interstate, maybe their eyes are too big for their stomach. I don't know if that analogy works in this situation, but they think they're going to get the boat down there in time and it's all going to be good. But everybody knows that getting a boat ready to cross the Bass Strait and everything else that's involved is a pretty big undertaking. So there's lots of interstate dropouts at the end. By the end of the cycle, the whole process, many of the boats that are on the waiting list get into the festival. So my advice for people making an expression of interest is just do it. Just make the expression of interest, take great photos of your boat, really talk it up in the description area, and the chances that you get in are pretty high. And a special message to our interstate boats is, once you get in, come down, because we really want to celebrate Australian maritime culture and Australian wooden boats. And Hobart is, probably the number one place in terms of history and historical boat building in Australia. But we want to celebrate maritime culture from across the country. So get your expression of interest in, but make sure that you've got a plan from when you put it in till the boat festival to ensure your boat's ready and that you can come across the Bass Strait and connect with other people doing the same thing, because you can come as a flotilla across the Bass Strait. So plan ahead and make sure you get here.
Sails against the sea are a spectacle every Tasmanian knows.
One of the greatest aspects of the festival is the location. The site, it's a historic site. The dock is historic. All the buildings around are beautiful sandstone buildings. It's the perfect setting for an event, and especially a wooden boat festival. The chairman of the boat festival, when I first started, his name was Steve Knight, and I think he described it in a very good way, which was you get to the festival site and it's a sea of smiles, and really that's what it is. I mean, people are just jam-packed, shoulder to shoulder, just making their way from one thing to the next. And usually in those situations you get sort of like aggravated and hot under the collar and angry. At least I do. I hate crowds in general, but at the boat festival I love them. Everybody's happy, and everybody, it just seems genuinely positive and in a celebratory mood. And it's really hard to imagine the noise and the color and the music, public entertainment, sort of musicians everywhere, kids on the water. Endless flags of all colors strung up and down the yachts. Massive tall ships, 11 tall ships with their masts higher than the buildings, And this is what you would have seen in, let's say, like the 20s or the late 1800s or something like this. It's really recreating that vibe in the modern day.
The water has always had a strong attraction for Hobart people. Naturally enough, because its harbour is a yachtsman's paradise.
The festival represents Tasmania in a microcosm better than any other event does, or basically any other institution, I think, does. It is Hobart, and it is Tasmania, the festival. I mean, it's the best elements of all of it. People, market Tasmania as like quirky, offbeat, a little bit colorful, people doing their own thing. I mean, those are our boat owners, right? They're an interesting, creative, very entertaining, lovable group of people, and it's a firm community. But beyond the boat owners, maritime heritage and craftsmanship and seafaring. I mean, all of these things are what make Tasmania and Hobart what they are. And in terms of representing Tasmania and Hobart in a good and positive light, I think that this festival just does that better than anything. Boats in particular, I'll move on to other sort of tactile things as well, but boats in particular, I think, and I'm not trying to be overblown here, I really believe this, they are foundational to human civilization. No matter where you are on Earth, they're foundational because that's one of the major ways that humans got around. Most human civilization is based around rivers or water, and most of transport in early human civilization across the world was based in boats. I don't think you can do that for tens of thousands of years and not have some sort of genetic affiliation to the subject matter. So I think it goes slightly beyond tactile and actually goes into something deeper in the human psyche.